The way you speak shapes the way people see you. Every word you choose can open doors or close them forever. When you know how to express your ideas with clarity and confidence, you don't just talk. You influence minds and inspire action. Communication isn't about talking more. It's about talking smarter. The right words at the right time can change everything. Most people think speaking smart is about using big words, but it's really about connecting deeply and making others feel understood. In this video, you're going to learn how to master the psychology behind powerful communication. You'll discover simple yet effective strategies to make your words impactful, your tone confident, and your presence unforgettable. This is more than just speaking. This is about transforming the way people listen to you and respond to you. If you're ready to speak with confidence, clarity, and influence, then let's dive in. Number 1. Understand your audience to tailor your message effectively. Most people go through life talking a lot but saying very little. They speak, they explain, they share their opinions, yet nobody listens. Why? Because they don't take the time to truly understand who they're speaking to. And that's a mistake that costs them influence, costs them connection, costs them results. You see, communication isn't just about what you say. It's about how your words land in someone else's mind. It's not enough to be heard. You've got to be understood. You've got to be felt. And that starts with this one powerful shift. Know your audience. Really know them. If you walk into a room and try to speak the same way to everyone, you're already losing. People come from different backgrounds, different beliefs, different priorities. What matters to one person might mean nothing to another. Some people want the facts. Others want to feel the emotion. Some want the big picture. Others care about the details. If you don't understand what they value, your words will feel empty. They'll nod. They might smile. But inside they'll tune out. People pay attention to what feels relevant to their world. So your job isn't just to speak well. It's to speak in a way that reaches them where they are. You can't tailor your message if you don't take time to observe. You have to slow down and start noticing. Watch their body language. Listen to the way they talk. Are they formal or casual? Do they speak quickly or slowly? Do they lead with logic or emotion? These little clues will tell you what kind of speaker they'll respond to. If they speak in short, direct sentences, don't come at them with long, winding stories. If they seem quiet or reserved, don't overwhelm them with loud energy. Adapt. It's not about changing who you are. It's about adjusting how you present your message so it actually connects. Empathy is the foundation of smart speaking. When you understand how people feel, you can speak in ways that make them feel heard. And once they feel heard, they'll start to listen. The truth is, people don't care how much you know until they believe you care about them. That's not just a nice quote. It's the truth you'll see in every business meeting, every negotiation, every relationship. You want to speak smart? Care first. Tune in to what your audience is going through. What are they afraid of? What do they hope for? What are they tired of hearing? Get into their shoes, even if only for a moment. Think about it. If you walk into a room full of young professionals and start speaking like you're addressing a group of retirees, your message won't land. You'll lose their interest. And if you walk into a room full of high-level executives and sound like you're giving a classroom lecture, you'll be ignored. Tailoring your message means you understand the level of experience your audience has. It means you choose your words based on their mindset, not yours. A smart communicator can talk to a CEO in the morning and a college student in the afternoon, and both will walk away feeling like the message was meant just for them. The key is preparation. Don't walk into a conversation blind. Do your homework. Ask questions. Think about who you'll be speaking to. Are they skeptical? Are they hopeful? Are they under pressure? What keeps them up at night? What's the outcome they want? These are not just soft ideas. These are the factors that decide whether your words matter or disappear. Every message you deliver should be built around the listener's world, not your own comfort. You also need to consider timing. You might have the right message, but if the timing is wrong, it won't land. If someone's overwhelmed or frustrated, they might not be able to hear your advice, no matter how helpful it is. Smart speakers recognize the emotional state of their audience. They don't force the message. They wait for the moment where it can be received. That's wisdom. That's awareness. That's what gives your voice power. Don't make the mistake of assuming that being smart means using big words or complex ideas. That's not intelligence. Real intelligence is when you can take something complex and explain it in a way that anyone can understand. And that only happens when you care enough to adjust your message based on who you're speaking to. If your message requires effort to understand, most people won't make the effort. They'll drift. They'll disconnect. And you'll be talking to yourself. When you speak to people in a way that makes them feel seen and understood, something changes. They lean in. Their eyes light up. They start to nod. That's when you know you've struck a chord. That's when your message has power. That's when influence begins. But that kind of communication only happens when you're not just thinking about yourself. You're thinking about them, their goals, their struggles, their vision. And here's the thing, this applies everywhere. In business, in relationships, in leadership, in customer service, wherever there's communication, this principle matters. Because people are people. And all people want to feel like they matter. All people want to be talked to, not talked at. If you can learn how to speak to the heart of who they are, not just the surface, you will stand out in every room you enter. This is where your real strength as a communicator begins. It's not in having the loudest voice. It's in having the most thoughtful message. It's not in being impressive. It's in being effective. You don't need to dominate the conversation. You need to direct it in a way that leads to clarity, understanding, and action. The best communicators don't talk the most. They speak with intention. They adjust their words until their message fits like a key in a lock. If you want to speak smart, remember this: knowing your content isn't enough. You must also know your crowd. Speak in their language. Match their energy. Answer their questions before they even ask. This is how you lead people with your words. This is how you create change. It's not manipulation. It's awareness. It's connection. It's being wise enough to realize that it's not about being the star. It's about being the bridge. So before you say a single word, stop and ask yourself, who am I talking to? Matters to them? What are they looking for? And how can I deliver it in a way that feels like it belongs to them? That's when your words stop being noise and start becoming something people carry with them long after you're done speaking. Not because you impressed them, but because you reached them. That's the difference. That's what speaking smart is all about. Number 2, use clear and concise language to avoid confusion. Most people talk, but few people truly communicate. The room goes quiet, the spotlight is yours, and you open your mouth. But the moment you start speaking, you can almost feel the disconnect. Blank stares, nods without meaning. People pretending to understand while silently waiting for you to finish. That's the reality many face when they try to express themselves. It's not that they don't know what they're talking about. It's that they don't say it clearly. They ramble. They overcomplicate. They lose their listeners in a maze of words. And the truth is, when your message isn't clear, it doesn't matter how good it is. If people can't follow you, they won't trust you. If they're confused, they'll tune out. That's the price of unclear communication. Your influence disappears. If you want to speak smart, if you want your words to actually do something, change minds, shift beliefs, move people forward, you need to master one thing: clarity. Every word must serve a purpose. Every sentence must bring your message closer to home. That's how people begin to respect your voice. when you don't waste their time, and you don't cloud their thinking. We live in a noisy world. People are busy. Their attention is short. You don't have 10 minutes to warm up your point. You don't have room for fluff. They want to know what you mean, and they want it quickly. Not rushed, not shallow, but clean and strong. A lot of people think the more words they use, the smarter they sound. That's false. Real intelligence doesn't hide behind complexity. It reveals itself in simplicity. If you truly understand what you're talking about, you can explain it in plain language. That's how you earn trust. People listen to those who make things simple, not simplistic, but clear and direct. You don't need to dress up your ideas. Strip them down. Keep them honest. Speak with purpose. And when you do, you'll notice people leaning in instead of zoning out. Think about the last time someone tried to explain something to you and they went on and on without getting to the point. You were probably nodding politely, waiting for the moment when it would finally make sense, but it never did. And by the end of it, you didn't feel smarter. You felt frustrated. Now, imagine being that person. That's what happens when you speak without clarity. You create friction. You confuse the message. And even if your intentions were good, the outcome is poor. Your job as a communicator is to make the path to understanding smooth and easy. Every time you speak, you are either making things clearer or more confusing. There's no middle ground. One of the biggest causes of unclear communication is over-explaining. Some people try to say the same thing 3 or 4 different ways just to be sure the listener gets it. But that doesn't help. It actually does the opposite. It creates doubt. People start wondering what the real message is. They lose the thread. They stop trusting the speaker. Clarity means saying exactly what needs to be said and then stopping. Let your words breathe. Say it once and say it well. You don't need to be loud or dramatic. You need to be exact. Another habit that damages clear communication is using filler language. Phrases like, basically, sort of, and I think weaken your message. They make you sound unsure even if you know what you're talking about. Smart speakers cut those out. They replace them with words that have weight. Words that move things forward. You have to respect your words enough to not dilute them. Every time you speak, you are building or breaking your credibility. There's no such thing as neutral language. Clear communication also means organizing your thoughts before you speak. If you just start talking without knowing where you're going, people will feel that. You'll wonder, you'll backtrack, you'll confuse. But when you think ahead, even briefly, you bring structure to your message. The listener can follow you step by step. They don't have to guess where you're going. They can see it. That kind of structure builds trust. People want to follow someone who seems like they know where they're headed. They want to hear ideas that are sharp, not scattered. Here's the part most people overlook. Using clear language doesn't just help others, it helps you. When you speak clearly, you think clearly. You gain control over your message. You become more persuasive, more respected, more trusted. People respond differently to you. You stop sounding like someone trying to prove something and start sounding like someone who knows exactly what they're doing. That kind of energy changes the room. But it takes discipline. It takes work. You have to be willing to cut out what doesn't serve your message. You have to be okay with silence. You have to get comfortable with saying less and meaning more. And you have to be willing to get feedback. If people keep asking you to repeat yourself, or if they look confused after you talk, don't ignore that. That's your signal to adjust. It's not about being perfect. It's about being aware. Sometimes clarity also means using examples. Not long stories, but small, sharp illustrations that bring your idea to life. When people can picture what you mean, they remember it. They understand it faster, and they connect with it emotionally. Smart communicators use simple examples to bring abstract ideas down to earth. They don't speak in circles. They don't rely on theory. They speak in terms live with. Remember, communication isn't a performance. It's a transaction of meaning. You're giving people something and they're deciding whether or not to receive it. If your message is cluttered, they won't take it. If it's clean and strong, they will. Don't hide behind fancy words. Don't try to impress. Try to connect. If you want to be remembered, if you want to create change with your words, then say things in a way that can't be misunderstood. That's what gives your voice power. This isn't about dumbing things down. It's about respecting people's time, energy, and attention. Speak to them like you respect them. Speak to them in a way that gives value, not confusion. Speak like someone who knows exactly what they want to say and why it matters. That's how you become a smart speaker. Not because you say more, but because you say it better. Clean, sharp, and impossible to ignore. Number 3. Practice active listening to respond thoughtfully and smartly. Most people don't really listen. They wait for their turn to talk. While someone else is speaking, they're already building their reply in their head. And when it's their turn, they unload their thoughts without ever truly responding to what was just said. This is the reason so many conversations go nowhere. It's why people feel misunderstood, dismissed, and unheard. It's why discussions turn into arguments and meetings end without real progress. Listening is one of the most powerful tools in communication. Yet, it's the one people neglect the most. If you want to speak smart, you must first learn how to listen with full attention. Not halfway, not distracted, not selectively, but fully present, fully engaged, fully focused. Listening is not passive. It's not just being quiet while the other person speaks. It's a skill, a discipline, a commitment to truly understand what someone is trying to say. Active listening means giving someone the space to be heard, without interrupting, judging, or rehearsing your comeback. It means tuning in not just to their words, but to their tone, their pace, their energy. It's noticing when their voice tightens, or their face changes. It's hearing the things they don't say and picking up on what they truly mean underneath the surface. That's where real understanding lives. Think about how many people walk away from conversations feeling like nobody really heard them. They might have spoken for 10 minutes, but no one caught the emotion behind their words. No one acknowledged the weight in their voice. And the response they got was generic, shallow, or completely off the mark. That's what happens when people fake listening. They nod, they smile, but their mind is somewhere else. And when it's time to respond, they say something that makes it clear they weren't present at all. That kind of response breaks trust. It shuts down connection. When you practice active listening, everything changes. You stop guessing what someone means and you start knowing. You stop assuming their intentions and you start understanding their perspective. And once you understand, your response becomes smarter. You're not just throwing out random advice or trying to sound clever. You're responding to exactly what was said with insight, care, and precision. People feel that they feel when your words are shaped by understanding rather than ego, and that's what earns their respect. Smart communication isn't just about what you say. It's about what you respond to. When you listen deeply, you pick up on details that others miss. You ask better questions. You offer more relevant insights. You avoid misunderstandings that would have derailed the conversation. And most importantly, you make people feel valued. Because when someone feels truly heard, they open up. They trust you. They let their guard down. And now, instead of talking at each other, you're having a real exchange, a conversation that moves things forward. Listening also helps you read the room. It tells you when to push and when to pause. Tells you when someone's open to feedback and when they just need to be heard. It gives you the ability to adjust in real time, which is one of the strongest signs of a smart communicator. You're not stuck in your own agenda. You're flexible, responsive, tuned into what's actually happening, not just what you plan to say. That kind of adaptability makes your words more impactful because they're not canned. They're crafted in the moment for that moment. You've probably had experiences where someone listened to you so well, you walked away feeling lighter, even if they didn't give you any advice. That's the power of presence. It's rare, and that's why it's so effective. When you can give someone your full attention without needing to rush in with a solution or steer the conversation toward yourself, you create space for something real. And from that space, better ideas come. Smarter responses emerge. You're not reacting, you're responding with clarity and depth. And make no mistake, this takes effort. Active listening means putting your ego aside. It means being willing to not have the spotlight for a few moments. Means resisting the urge to interrupt, even when you think you already know what the other person is going to say. It means holding off on judgment, even if you disagree. It means listening not just with your ears but with your eyes and your instincts. That kind of listening can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to doing most of the talking. But the payoff is huge. The more you practice listening, the better you get at it. You start noticing patterns. You start hearing what's behind people's words. You get quicker at recognizing the emotions driving their message. And you begin to realize people often aren't looking for someone to fix them. They're looking for someone who gets it. Someone who hears them without rushing, without correcting, without turning it into a lecture. That kind of listening is a gift. And if you want to be a powerful communicator, it's a gift you have to learn how to give. And it doesn't just help the person you're talking to. Helps you sharpen your own communication. You speak more intentionally. You ask sharper questions. You stop saying things that miss the mark. You respond with precision instead of guessing. That's the kind of communication that builds influence. That's the kind of communication people remember. When you listen this way, your words become more powerful. Not because they're louder, but because they're accurate. Because they reflect a moment of understanding, not assumption. That's what people respect. Not how fast you can respond, but how thoughtful your response is. Not how much you say, but how much of what you say actually matters. That only comes from listening, really listening. So before you speak, pause. Take in what's being said. Resist the need to jump in. Let the other person finish. Fully. Listen to understand, not to reply. And once you do speak, base your response on what you actually heard, not what you assumed. That habit alone can change the way people experience you. It will show them that your words aren't just smart, they're anchored in something deeper, understanding. This is how leaders communicate. This is how great relationships are built. This is how progress happens through people who speak wisely because they listen well. You don't need to dominate every conversation to make an impact. You just need to show up with attention, with care, with a willingness to really hear what's being said before you add your voice to the mix. That's what speaking smart looks like in real life. And it starts not with words, but with listening. Number 4, control your Tone to convey confidence and authority. It's a fact many don't realize. How you say something often matters more than what you say. You can have the smartest message in the world, but if your tone doesn't match it, your words will lose power. Most people underestimate the effect tone has on communication. You can say the right thing and still fail to connect or persuade if your voice sounds uncertain, hesitant, or weak. On the other hand, when you control your tone well, you command attention and respect before you even finish your sentence. This is the silent language that speaks louder than words. If you want to master powerful communication, controlling your tone is non-negotiable. Many people struggle with this because they confuse tone with volume. Speaking louder doesn't automatically make you sound confident or authoritative. In fact, shouting or raising your voice can often have the opposite effect. It can come off as aggressive or insecure. True control of tone comes from being calm, deliberate, and steady. When your voice is even and measured, people listen. They don't feel threatened or overwhelmed. Instead, they feel drawn in and open. This kind of tone communicates strength without arrogance. It shows that you know what you're talking about and you're comfortable in your skin. Confidence in your tone doesn't mean you sound robotic or monotone. It means you speak with purpose and energy that fits the message. If you're excited, let that excitement come through naturally. If you're serious, let your voice reflect that seriousness. Authenticity is crucial. People can sense when you're faking it. When your tone matches your true feelings, your message is genuine. That's what makes you believable and trustworthy. When people trust you, they listen more closely. They are more willing to accept your ideas. The reality is that tone is tied directly to your emotions. If you feel anxious or unsure, it shows in your voice. Your pitch might go up. You might speak too fast or too slow. You might sound breathless or hesitant. If you want to speak smart, you must learn how to manage your feelings so they don't sabotage your tone. It takes practice and awareness, but it's possible. When you take control of your inner state, your tone naturally follows. You sound steady and sure. You sound like someone who has something valuable to say. One of the biggest mistakes is allowing nervousness or self-doubt to dictate your tone. When you feel those butterflies in your stomach, your voice tightens. It loses its richness and warmth. It becomes flat or shaky. People pick up on that immediately, even if you don't realize it. The first step to fixing this is simply noticing what happens to your voice when you get nervous. When you become aware of the change, you can start to work on it. Simple deep breath before speaking can reset your tone. A slight pause before you answer a question lets your voice settle. These small actions give your tone a steady foundation. Another factor to consider is the pace of your speech. Speaking too quickly makes your tone sound rushed and frantic. It sends the message that you're either nervous or desperate to get your point out. That urgency makes it hard for listeners to keep up, and it reduces your authority. Speaking too slowly, on the other hand, can make your tone sound dull or uncertain. You risk losing people's attention or making them wonder if you lack confidence. The ideal pace is comfortable, not too fast, not too slow, and it gives your words the space to be heard and understood. It lets your tone breathe. Pausing is one of the most powerful tools to control your tone. When you pause before or after important points, you add weight to your words. The silence creates anticipation and focus. It allows listeners to digest what you just said. Many people fear silence and rush to fill it, which undermines their tone and message. But learning to be comfortable with pauses transforms your speaking. Shows control. It signals that your words matter. It also gives you a moment to check your tone and adjust if needed. Volume plays a role, too, but it should always support your tone, not overpower it. When you speak too softly, your message loses energy and comes across as weak or hesitant. When you speak too loudly, you risk sounding aggressive or impatient. The key is to find a volume that matches the setting and the mood. A controlled, steady voice commands attention better than extremes in volume. Think of it as a tool to underline your confidence, not shout it. Another important element is your intonation, how your voice rises and falls. A monotone speaker sounds bored or disinterested even if their message is valuable. Smart communicators use variation in their tone to keep listeners engaged. They stress keywords and phrases, change pitch to emphasize emotion, and soften their voice when making a sincere point. This natural melody in your voice makes your message easier to follow and remember. It turns a simple statement into something compelling. It's also important to recognize how your tone impacts the emotional environment of the conversation. Your tone sets the mood. If it's calm and respectful, it encourages openness and trust. If it's harsh or dismissive, it creates tension and defensiveness. This is why controlling your tone is critical in difficult conversations. When emotions run high, your tone can either diffuse the situation or escalate it. Speaking smart means knowing how to keep your voice steady even when the topic is challenging. That steady tone reassures people that you are in control, which helps them relax and listen. Practicing tone control isn't something you do once and forget about. It's an ongoing process. You can record yourself speaking and listen back to hear how you sound. You can ask trusted friends or colleagues for honest feedback on your tone. You can practice reading aloud, focusing on how your voice moves and feels. Over time, you'll become more aware of how your tone affects your message and how to adjust it for maximum impact. The effort to control your tone pays off in every area of life, at work, in relationships, in public speaking, and even casual conversations. When you speak with confidence and authority, people naturally give you their attention. They listen more carefully. They trust your words. You become someone who influences, inspires, and leads. This is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about tuning your natural voice to its strongest, clearest form so your message lands exactly as you intend. Ultimately, controlling your tone is about respect for your audience, and respect for yourself. It shows that you care enough to communicate clearly and powerfully. It reveals that you believe in your message enough to deliver it with strength and grace. That is how you speak smart. That is how you master the psychology of powerful communication. Your tone is your secret weapon. Use it wisely. Number 5. Use storytelling to make your points memorable and engaging. People forget facts, statistics, and dry information all the time. What they remember are stories. This is a hard truth many overlook when trying to speak smart. You might know your subject inside out, but if you only deliver cold facts, you lose the chance to connect on a deeper level. Stories are the bridge between your ideas and your listeners' heart. They make your message real. They give it shape, feeling, and meaning. When you use storytelling, you turn ordinary communication into something powerful and unforgettable. It's the difference between someone nodding politely and someone leaning in, fully engaged, hanging on every word. Most people think stories are just for entertainment or casual talk. That's a mistake. Stories are tools for clarity, persuasion, and influence. They help people see the point you're making instead of just hearing it. The brain processes stories differently from facts. Stories activate emotions and imagination. They create pictures in the listener's mind. That's why a well-LD story sticks longer and motivates more effectively than raw data. The key to speaking smart is to weave your message into stories that resonate with your audience's experiences, challenges, or desires. To do this well, start by thinking about the core of your message. What idea do you want people to remember? Then find a story that illustrates that idea clearly. It could be a personal experience, something you witnessed, or a simple example that captures the essence of your point. The story doesn't have to be long or complicated. It just has to be relevant and relatable. When you choose stories your audience can see themselves in, you create a bond. That bond makes your communication more effective because people feel understood. Good storytelling requires more than just sharing events. It requires detail and emotion. Paint a clear picture with your words. Describe what you saw, heard, or felt. Help your listeners experience the moment with you. When you include sensory details, the sights, sounds, smells, or feelings, you pull people into your story. They're not just passive listeners. They become part of the story's world. That involvement triggers empathy and connection, which makes your message more persuasive and meaningful. It's also important to show vulnerability when telling stories. People connect with honesty. When you share your struggles, failures, or lessons learned, you come across as genuine. That authenticity breaks down barriers and builds trust. It lets people know you're not just preaching from a pedestal. You've lived the message. This human element is what transforms a simple point into a powerful lesson that inspires change. It's easy to speak smart when you show you've been through real experiences and come out stronger. Timing matters, too. Stories should support your message, not distract from it. Introduce them at moments when you need to clarify or emphasize a point. Use them to illustrate complex ideas or to shift the mood. Stories can lighten heavy topics or add energy to dull ones. By strategically placing stories throughout your communication, you keep your audience interested and make your message easier to digest. A well-timed story acts like a reset button for attention and keeps people tuned in. Every story has a structure, even simple ones. Start with a setting. Where and when did this happen? Introduce the characters involved. Build a situation or conflict that creates tension. Then, show how it was resolved or what was learned. This flow creates a natural rhythm that people instinctively understand and follow. If you skip steps, your story can feel confusing or incomplete. When you follow this simple structure, your story becomes clear and impactful. It feels natural, not forced or rehearsed. One trap to avoid is overloading your story with unnecessary details. Keep it focused. Every sentence should move the story forward or deepen understanding. If you stray too far off topic, you risk losing your listeners' attention or muddying your message. The goal is to keep the story tight and relevant so that it shines a spotlight on the idea you want to highlight. This discipline in storytelling shows respect for your audience's time and intelligence. Body language and tone also enhance storytelling. When you tell a story with energy in your voice and movement in your body, it makes your words come alive. A change in facial expression, a gesture, or a shift in pace can make your story more vivid and engaging. People don't just listen with their ears, they absorb your whole presence. When your voice rises in excitement or softens in seriousness, it guides the audience through the emotional journey of the story. That kind of performance is part of speaking smart. Sometimes a story ends with a question or a call to action. This invites listeners to think deeper or apply what they've heard. It turns passive listeners into active participants. When you close with a question, you keep the conversation going in their minds long after you stop speaking. When you challenge people to act, you move them from inspiration to action. That's the ultimate goal of powerful communication, not just to inform, but to change. The most effective storytellers also listen to their audience's reactions. Watching how people respond to a story helps you adjust your delivery. If you see confusion, you can clarify. If you notice excitement, you can build on it. Being present to feedback during storytelling allows you to connect more deeply and keep your message on track. It also shows humility and respect. You're not just delivering a monologue, you're sharing a moment. Over time, as you practice telling stories, you build a library of experiences to draw from. You get better at spotting stories in everyday life that illustrate your points. You also learn how to tailor stories to different audiences, making your communication more adaptable and effective. This skill sets you apart because it transforms what could be boring information into memorable moments. Remember, storytelling isn't just for writers or performers. It's a fundamental part of how humans share meaning. When you master it, you don't just speak smart. You speak with heart and clarity. You make your message stick. You inspire action. You build connections. This is one of the most powerful ways to influence others and leave a lasting impact. Your ideas deserve to be heard clearly and remembered long after the conversation ends. Stories make that possible. Number 6. Ask strategic questions to encourage deeper conversations. It's a common struggle. Many people talk, but few truly engage. They fill the space with words, but the real connection never happens. Conversations can become shallow surface-level exchanges that leave everyone feeling empty or misunderstood. That's because asking the right questions isn't easy, and it's often overlooked. Powerful communication isn't just about talking smart. It's about listening smart and asking questions that open the door to deeper understanding. When you learn to ask strategic questions, you create conversations that matter. You pull people out of autopilot and into genuine dialogue. Most conversations follow a predictable pattern: questions about facts or simple yes-no answers. These keep things moving, but they don't challenge the mind or the heart. Strategic questions, on the other hand, invite thought and reflection. They encourage people to explore their ideas, feelings, and motivations. When you ask questions that go beyond surface level, you invite others to share what really matters to them. This transforms conversations from routine chit-chat into meaningful exchanges. It's in those moments that trust builds, insight grows, and influence deepens. To ask strategic questions, start by being curious, truly curious. This means putting aside assumptions and judgments. It means caring enough to want to understand the other person better. Curiosity sparks questions that invite honesty. For example, instead of asking, "Did you like the project?" you might ask, "What part of the project excited you the most?" The difference is subtle but powerful. The first question can be answered with a simple yes or no. The second encourages storytelling, reflection, and deeper sharing. Shows that you value their unique experience. Timing is essential when asking strategic questions. Dropping a heavy question too soon can shut down the conversation. People need to feel safe and comfortable first. This means building rapport and listening attentively before diving in. Once that foundation is set, well-timed questions can guide the conversation toward insights that surprise and inspire. Knowing when to ask is just as important as knowing what to ask. Another key is to avoid leading questions, those that push people toward the answer you want to hear. True strategic questions are open-ended, inviting exploration without pressure. They start with how, what, why, or tell me about. These starters encourage expansive answers and reveal new perspectives. They help both parties Think more deeply. For example, how did that experience change your view? Invites reflection. Why do you think that happened? Opens up analysis. What's important to you about this? Taps into values. 6. These questions turn conversation into discovery. Asking strategic questions also means being comfortable with silence. When you ask a question that requires thought, don't rush to fill the pause. Let the silence hang for a moment. People need time to organize their thoughts and respond honestly. Filling silence too quickly can signal impatience or insecurity, but holding it shows confidence and respect. For the process of reflection, it gives the question and space to work its magic. Listening deeply is the natural partner to asking questions. Without careful listening, your questions will miss the mark. Pay close attention to what people say, how they say it, and what they don't say. This gives clues for your next question and helps you avoid repeating or changing topics too abruptly. Listening well also shows that you care and are fully present. This encourages people to open up more freely and honestly. Strategic questions can serve different purposes depending on the situation. Sometimes they help clarify confusion. For example, can you help me understand what you mean by that? Invites explanation and prevents misunderstandings. Other times, questions help explore options and possibilities. What are some ways we might approach this differently? Encourages creative thinking. They can also challenge assumptions gently. What would happen if we looked at it from another perspective? Invites fresh insight. Understanding the purpose behind your questions helps you use them more effectively. In leadership and influence, asking the right questions is one of the most powerful tools. It moves people from passive listeners to active thinkers. It encourages ownership of ideas and solutions. When people discover answers themselves, those ideas stick stronger than anything told to them. This creates motivation and commitment that lasts. Great leaders know that their job isn't to have all the answers, but to guide others to find theirs through strategic questions. People also appreciate when you ask questions about their feelings and values, not just facts. It shows empathy and respect for their whole experience. Questions like, how did that make you feel? Or, what matters most to you in this situation? Tap into emotions and priorities that often go unspoken. This deepens connection and trust. It also helps you communicate more effectively by addressing what truly matters to them. Strategic questions can turn conflicts or difficult conversations into opportunities for growth. When tension rises, asking questions that encourage understanding and problem-solving diffuses defensiveness. Questions like, what's the biggest challenge you're facing here? Or, how can we work together to fix this? Shift the focus from blame to solutions. This changes the tone of the conversation and opens the door to collaboration. Developing skill in asking strategic questions takes practice and reflection. Start by noticing the questions you naturally ask and how people respond. Experiment with different types of questions in different settings. Reflect on which questions sparked deeper dialogue and which shut things down. Over time, you'll build intuition about what questions to ask, when, and how. This makes your communication smarter and more effective every time. In everyday life, strategic questions elevate your conversations. They help you learn more about people, build stronger relationships, and influence outcomes positively. Whether at work, with family, or in social settings, thoughtful questions make you stand out. They show you're interested, attentive, and wise. This simple shift from just talking to asking opens doors that words alone can't. Ultimately, speaking smart means more than delivering your message well. It means inviting others into the conversation so they can engage fully and think deeply. Strategic questions are the key to that invitation. When used with genuine curiosity and respect, they transform communication from a one-way lecture into a rich two-way exchange. That's where true understanding and influence begin. That's how you master the psychology of powerful communication. Number 7, manage your body language to support your verbal message. There's a powerful truth most people ignore. What you say matters far less than how you say it. Communication isn't just about words. Your body speaks louder than your voice ever will. The reality is, no matter how smart your words are, if your body doesn't align, the message falls flat. You can speak with all the knowledge in the world, but if your posture, gestures, or facial expressions contradict your words, you lose credibility. People instinctively pick up on body language, often more than the actual speech. If your body signals doubt, nervousness, or disinterest, your audience will feel it immediately, no matter what you say. Managing your body language is not optional for those who want to speak smart. It's essential. Most of us don't realize how much we communicate with nonverbal cues. Think about a time when someone said something positive, but their eyes looked away or their arms were crossed. That mismatch creates confusion. Your body either builds trust or creates suspicion. Every gesture, every movement, every expression sends a message. When these nonverbal signals support your words, your communication becomes authentic and powerful. People listen and remember not just your ideas but how you made them feel through your presence. Good body language starts with awareness. It means being conscious of your posture, standing tall without stiffness, sitting relaxed but engaged. This posture communicates confidence and openness. Slouching, on the other hand, suggests insecurity or boredom. When your body slumps, it lowers your energy and diminishes your presence. Standing or sitting upright not only changes how others see you but also affects how you feel inside. This small shift boosts your self-assurance, making your words carry more weight. Contact is another cornerstone of effective body language. It's about connection. When you look someone in the eye, you tell them they matter. Avoiding eye contact sends the opposite message. It creates distance and distrust. Holding steady, natural eye contact conveys honesty and confidence. It invites others into your world and holds their attention. However, staring too intensely can feel aggressive or uncomfortable. The key is balance. Maintain eye contact long enough to show interest, then briefly glance away to keep things natural. This rhythm keeps the conversation alive and genuine. Your facial expressions are powerful tools for reinforcing your message. A sincere smile opens doors. A frown closes them. When you speak, your face should reflect the emotions behind your words. If you're talking about excitement, let your expression show that energy. If discussing a serious matter, maintain a calm, composed look. Expressing emotions through your face makes your message real and relatable. People respond to what they see as much as what they hear. When your facial cues match your verbal message, people trust you more. Hand gestures can either support or distract from your communication. Controlled, purposeful gestures emphasize important points and help illustrate your ideas. Makes you appear more animated and passionate. On the other hand, fidgeting, wringing hands, or tapping fingers send signals of anxiety or impatience. It's important to use gestures naturally, not forced or excessive. When your hands move with intention, they guide your listener through your message with clarity. Movement in your space also impacts how your message is received. Standing still can sometimes feel stiff or unnatural. Moving slightly, stepping forward, turning towards someone shows engagement and interest. However, pacing or shifting too much can be distracting. Effective speakers use movement strategically to emphasize points or invite participation. Think of your body as part of the message itself. When it's in harmony with your words, it strengthens your influence and connection. Another vital aspect of body language is mirroring. People tend to feel more comfortable and connected when their gestures or posture are subtly mirrored. This doesn't mean copying exactly, but matching the other person's energy and openness. Mirroring builds rapport and fosters trust. When you align your body language with your listeners, you create a silent agreement, a bond that makes your communication more effective. Managing your body language also involves controlling nervous habits that undermine your message. These could be biting your nails, playing with a pen, or shifting your weight anxiously. These small actions distract from your message and signal insecurity. Being mindful of these habits helps you present yourself as composed and credible. Practice calming techniques like deep breathing or grounding yourself in the moment to keep those nervous tics in check. The steadiness you project gives your words more authority. Voice tone and pace are closely linked with body language, though they are part of verbal communication. Your body can either support or sabotage the tone you want to convey. For example, if you want to sound confident, but your shoulders are slumped and your head down, your tone may sound weak. Aligning your posture with the tone you intend creates a full, convincing delivery. Speak with energy that matches your body language to captivate your audience. When your entire presence works together, you are unforgettable. The connection between body and mind is real. How you carry yourself influences how you think and feel. This means by consciously managing your body language, you also manage your mindset. Standing with confidence can make you feel more capable. Smiling, even when you don't feel like it, can lighten your mood. This feedback loop empowers you to stay composed under pressure and deliver your message with strength. Remember, body language is a universal language that transcends words. Can break down barriers and create understanding even when words fail. Being aware of how your body communicates allows you to send clear, honest messages. It helps others see you as trustworthy, knowledgeable, and sincere. This foundation is what separates speakers who are heard from those who are truly listened to. Mastering body language takes practice. It requires observation. Watch yourself in the mirror or record your conversations to notice habits that might undermine your message. Ask trusted friends or colleagues for feedback about how you come across. Make small adjustments over time, and you'll notice a big difference in how people respond to you. Confidence grows as you align your physical presence with your verbal message. In any important conversation, presentation, or negotiation, your body language is your silent partner. It can open doors or close them without a single word. When it supports your speech, it adds power and clarity. When it contradicts your words, it sows doubt and confusion. By managing your body language, you control an essential part of your communication, one that influences perception and builds or breaks trust. Speaking smart requires more than just choosing the right words. It demands that your entire being speaks with clarity and confidence. The way you carry yourself, the expressions you wear, and the movements you make all work together to create an impression that lasts. If your body language is strong, you don't have to convince anyone you know what you're talking about. They'll already believe it. That's the power you gain when you manage your body language to support your verbal message. Number 8. Build emotional connection to influence and persuade others. It's not that people don't want to listen. Many do. But here's the raw truth. They won't really listen unless they feel something. And That's where most communicators lose the room. They focus on sounding smart, using fancy words, reciting facts, or staying polished on the surface. But you can't move people with logic alone. Influence doesn't begin in the mind. It begins in the heart. You have to build emotional connection before persuasion becomes possible. And that's a reality many skip in their rush to impress. We've all sat through conversations or presentations where the speaker said all the right things, but we felt absolutely nothing. They delivered their points, they explained. They even sounded confident, but their words passed through the air like cold wind, no warmth, no pull, no weight. That's what happens when there's no emotional connection. The speaker might be informed, even passionate in their own mind, but they failed to bridge the gap between themselves and their listener. That bridge is emotional connection. It's what makes someone trust you. It's what makes someone remember what you said. It's what gives your words impact. Emotional connection begins with honesty. If you want to connect with others, you can't hide behind a mask. You've got to show your own humanity. You've got to let people see that you care not just about your message but about them. When people sense that you genuinely care about what they're going through, about what they feel, they open up. Their defenses drop. They stop analyzing and start relating. That's when your words can land in places logic could never reach. One of the most direct ways to build emotional connection is to speak to shared experiences. Talk about the things people go through that aren't easy to say out loud. Bring up the frustration of being misunderstood. Speak to the fear of being judged. Mention the pressure people feel to always say the right thing, even when they're dying to. Just be real. These aren't abstract ideas. They're human truths. When you say them out loud, you make the other person feel seen. You create a moment where they feel, that's me. That feeling is powerful. It creates trust instantly. To connect emotionally, you also need to be present. Really present. That means listening with your whole attention. It means not thinking about your next line or your clever point while someone else is talking. People can feel when you're not fully there. And when they do, connection breaks. But when you lock in, when your eyes say, I'm with you, when your posture says, you matter, and when your energy says, I'm tuned in, that's when people start leaning toward you instead of away from you. And in that moment, your influence begins to grow. Tone of voice also carries emotional power. A flat mechanical voice might get your words out, but it won't get them in. Your tone should match the emotions you want your audience to feel. If you want them to feel hopeful, your voice needs to carry that hope. If you're talking about a tough moment, don't rush through it with speed. Let your voice settle. Soften. If you're trying to inspire action, let your voice rise with urgency and energy. You can't fake that. But when it's real, people don't just hear your words, they feel your belief. Empathy is another tool that strengthens emotional connection. When you respond to someone else with empathy, you show that you're not just interested in what they're saying, you're feeling it with them. That moment of shared emotion makes the space between you disappear. When someone opens up about a challenge and you say, I've been there, or that sounds really tough, it creates a sense of partnership. You're no longer a speaker and a listener. You're two humans sharing a moment of truth. That's the foundation of influence. You don't need to be emotional for the sake of being emotional. That doesn't work. People can sense forced emotion from a mile away. You need to speak from a place that's honest and grounded. Emotional connection is built through truth, your truth, and the willingness to enter someone else's truth. If you've gone through something, share it. Not to impress, not to manipulate, but to relate. Say what you felt, what you learned, and why it matters. Now, this kind of vulnerability doesn't weaken your message, it strengthens it. Using stories is one of the most effective ways to build emotional connection. People may forget data, but they don't forget a good story. A story gives your message a heartbeat. When you tell a story that others can see themselves in, they become part of the journey. They feel what you felt. They remember the lesson, not just in their head, but in their gut. Stories allow people to care about what you're saying because they experience it emotionally. And once they care, they're ready to believe. Don't be afraid to pause when speaking. Silence gives emotion room to breathe. It lets your words settle and gives your listeners time to reflect. If you rush, you rob them of that space. Well-placed pause after a powerful point gives people time to absorb what was said. It tells them that what was just spoken matters. And in those few seconds, the emotional impact deepens. You don't have to fill every moment with noise. Sometimes the silence does the heavy lifting. Even when the topic isn't emotional by nature, you can still bring connection into it by caring deeply about the person you're speaking to. Let that care come through. Show respect, curiosity, and compassion. Ask questions that matter. Listen as if the answer is gold. Smile when appropriate. Nod when someone shares something vulnerable. Small gestures build big trust. Emotional connection isn't built by big speeches. It's built in moments of genuine attention. To influence and persuade, your audience has to feel like they're part of something with you, not beneath you, not being talked at, but with you. Speak in a way that invites, not imposes. Share ideas as conversations, not commandments. People are far more likely to change their perspective when they feel safe, understood, and included. That's what emotional connection does. It opens the door for transformation. There's a world of difference between speaking at someone and speaking into someone. Speaking at them is about pushing information. Speaking into them is about planting something real, something that grows. When you connect emotionally, you stop just being a speaker. You become a messenger of change. You influence not just decisions, but beliefs. And that's what smart communication is really about. Not just being heard, but being felt, remembered, and followed. The most influential voices in the world aren't always the loudest, but they're the ones that create a feeling you can't ignore. People might not always remember the exact words you say, but they will always remember how you made them feel. If your message carries heart, if your tone carries care, and if your presence carries purpose, people will follow, not because they have to, but because they want to. That's the difference emotional connection makes. It turns words into experience. It turns speaking into leading. And it turns communication into transformation. Number 9. Create a speaking style that reflects your unique personality and builds authentic presence. Most people are terrified of speaking, not because they don't know what to say, but because they don't know how to say it in a way that feels like them. They think they have to copy someone else's style, someone louder, smoother, more energetic, more polished. So they rehearse gestures, fake smiles, overcorrect their tone, and mimic what they think a good speaker should sound like. And in doing so, they lose the very thing that would make their voice unforgettable, their realness, their authenticity, their natural presence. The truth is, people don't want perfect. They want you. And until you give yourself permission to be fully you when you speak, your message will always feel hollow, no matter how well rehearsed it is. Developing a speaking style that reflects your unique personality starts with self-acceptance. You have to embrace your quirks, your rhythm, your tone, your pace, your energy. Whether you speak softly or loudly, slowly or quickly, whether you use metaphors, humor, stories, or stillness, those are not weaknesses. They're your signature. Stop thinking you need to remove your natural style to become a great communicator. Greatness begins where imitation ends. Your style should never feel like a costume. It should feel like a second skin. Some of the most impactful speakers in history didn't have conventional voices. They weren't trained orally, but they knew how to speak from themselves, not away from themselves. When your message flows from who you actually are, it lands with integrity. Audiences may not agree with you, but they'll trust that you mean what you say. That trust is a direct result of your authenticity. And authenticity is not about always being raw or vulnerable. It's about alignment. What you say, how you say it, and who you are. Those three must agree. To build a style that is truly your own, pay attention to how you speak in natural conversation. When you're most alive, when you're laughing with a close friend, when you're passionately explaining something you care about, when you're ranting about something unjust, those moments contain your real voice. That's the version of you that communicates without self-editing. That version is powerful, magnetic, and honest. Your goal should not be to manufacture a new voice. It should be to remove the blocks that are hiding the voice you already have. Presence is built in the space between performance and comfort. If you're too performative, people feel you're putting on a show. If you're too casual, your message loses weight. Presence is that sweet spot where you're fully grounded in who you are, but intentional about the impact of your words. It's the balance between being relaxed and being deliberate. You don't need to fake charisma. You don't need to pretend to be fearless. All you need is to be fully there in the moment, with your whole attention focused outward, not inward. One mistake many people make when trying to find their speaking style is overthinking every word. They write, rewrite, memorize, and rehearse so much that the final delivery becomes robotic. It's too tight, too polished, too unnatural. The best speakers know how to prepare deeply, but speak loosely. They don't aim for perfection. They aim for connection. And connection only happens when the speaker is with the message, not just reciting it. Your audience doesn't care if you stumble or pause. They care if you're real. Don't be afraid to bring your full range into your speaking. If you're funny, let that show. If you're intense, let it breathe. If you're reflective or calm, don't force excitement. Honor your tone. Your emotional palette is part of your power. You can be both serious and light. You can be both passionate and calm. You can move fluidly through those expressions as long as they come from a genuine place. The mistake is thinking there's one right way to sound. There isn't. The only wrong way is to try to sound like someone you're not. It's also important to know that your speaking style is not something fixed. It evolves. It matures with time, experience, and self-awareness. The more you speak, the more you understand what parts of your style truly resonate with people and what parts you've inherited from insecurity or imitation. You might start out trying to speak like someone you admire. That's normal. But over time, the goal is to strip away everything that doesn't feel true. Your best version doesn't look like anyone else's. It's something only you can become. Your body language plays a huge role in your presence. But again, the goal is not to master correct gestures. It's to express with congruence. If your words say one thing, but your body says another, people get confused. Presence is when your body speaks the same language as your voice. Let your hands move naturally when your emotions rise. Use your eyes to lock in. Use your posture to show that you're anchored in your message. The more your body reflects your inner conviction, the more compelling your presence becomes. Silence is another overlooked part of Personal style. Many people are afraid of silence because they think it signals weakness. But strategic silence creates space, shows control, and allows your audience to reflect. If you're naturally someone who pauses to think, don't apologize for it. Own it. Pausing can be part of your power. You don't need to rush to prove you're sharp. Let your message breathe. When used intentionally, stillness can speak volumes. Don't underestimate the power of language that feels natural to you. You don't have to use formal or fancy words to sound smart. In fact, the more complicated your vocabulary, the more you risk losing clarity. Use language that reflects how you think, how you feel, and how you speak in everyday life. That doesn't mean being sloppy or careless. It means being you. Speak how you'd explain something to someone you care about. Speak with the same fire you would use to defend something that matters deeply to you. That's where your true voice lives. Lastly, feedback can be useful, but it can also be misleading. Everyone will have an opinion about how you should speak. Some will say you need more energy. Some will say tone it down. Others will push you to change your phrasing or polish your delivery. Take feedback, but don't let it dilute your essence. The right advice will help you sharpen your voice, not replace it. If you follow every suggestion, you'll become a collection of other people's preferences instead of an expression of your own voice. Trust your gut. Trust your instincts. Trust the style that feels right in your bones, even if it looks different from everyone else. A powerful speaking style isn't built in a day. It's built every time you choose to be honest over perfect, real over rehearsed, connected over impressive. Your job is not to entertain, impress, or mimic. Your job is to stand in your truth, speak with integrity, and own your unique voice in every moment. Because the most unforgettable speakers aren't the ones who said the most clever things. They're the ones who made us feel something real, simply by being fully themselves. Number 10. Create your own memorable way of communicating complex ideas simply and powerfully. Most people walk away from conversations, speeches, or presentations without retaining anything that was said. Not because the topic wasn't important, but because the way it was delivered lacked clarity, structure, and emotional resonance. The truth is, it's not enough to understand something deeply. You have to translate that understanding into something digestible, relatable, and striking for others. That's where real communication begins. You could be an expert in your field, but if you can't explain your insights in a way that someone can feel and remember, your expertise might as well be invisible. Think about the last time someone explained a difficult concept to you in such a vivid human way that it just clicked. That aha moment wasn't just a result of information. It was the effect of thoughtful articulation. And more often than not, it came from someone who didn't rely on jargon, complexity, or intellectual ego. It came from someone who made it simple. Not by dumbing it down, but by lifting you up into a clearer view. But communicating simply doesn't mean speaking less intelligently. It means getting to the essence of the idea and expressing it in a way that pierces through confusion. The best communicators know how to boil ideas down to their core truths. They strip away fluff. They remove unnecessary details. They cut out anything that distracts from the heartbeat of the message. And once they find that pulse, they use analogies, metaphors, and stories to make it unforgettable. Metaphors are one of the most powerful tools in human communication. They take the abstract and turn it into something concrete. If you want people to grasp what you're saying, stop relying on definitions and start painting pictures. Don't just say, "Change is hard." Say, "Change feels like trying to run in sand while blindfolded." Now, That's an image people won't forget. Your job is not just to transfer knowledge. Your job is to make someone see it, feel it, and remember it. And the key to building your own memorable way of explaining things isn't copying how others communicate. It's paying attention to how you see the world. How do you naturally describe things? What metaphors do you come back to again and again? What do you compare your experiences to when you're talking to your closest friends? Inside those personal descriptions is your true voice. That voice, when shaped with clarity and creativity, becomes your most powerful asset. You don't have to sound like a professor. You don't have to sound like a preacher. You don't need to be poetic or philosophical. But you do need to be intentional. You need to care about the way your ideas land. Because if you speak just to sound smart, you'll lose people. But if you speak so they get it, feel it, and want to do something with it, that's when you become unforgettable. One thing that separates memorable communicators from average ones is their ability to slow down. They don't race through concepts. They build them step by step with pacing and rhythm that keeps their audience grounded. They're not afraid to pause, repeat, and reframe ideas until they fully land. Not just delivering information, but shaping experience. Simplicity is not the enemy of depth. In fact, the simpler you make something, the deeper it can be understood. Think of how the most profound truths are often stated in the fewest words. Less is more. You are not your thoughts. What you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. These are not complex sentences, but they carry powerful truths. Your goal is not to say more. Your goal is to say what matters in a way that lives in people's minds long after you're gone. Another overlooked element of memorable communication is structure. A scattered message loses attention. But when you build your ideas with clear progression, this leads to that which leads to this. It creates a sense of journey. People remember stories, not facts. They remember turning points, not bullet points. So whenever possible, use narrative to structure your message. Show the challenge, the tension, the insight, and the resolution. Walk them through a transformation, not a lecture. Don't shy away from emotion. People think logic convinces and emotion distracts. But the truth is emotion cements understanding. It creates an anchor. When someone feels something deeply as you explain an idea, whether it's surprise, sadness, hope, or wonder, that feeling fuses with the concept. They may forget the data, but they won't forget how you made them feel. And that emotional connection gives the idea a permanent place in their memory. To build your own signature way of communicating, pay attention to patterns. What stories do people remember when you tell them? What ideas do they repeat back to you after a talk? What metaphors get the strongest reaction? Your most effective tools are already embedded in how you naturally speak when you're not trying too hard. Build from there. Refine those tools. Sharpen them like a craftsperson. That's how your style becomes both authentic and unforgettable. Also ask yourself, what is your lens? Everyone sees the world through a particular filter. Maybe you see everything as a journey or as a game or as a series of systems. Maybe you relate things back to nature, music, sports, relationships, or design. Whatever your lens is, use it. Let it shape how you explain things. That lens becomes part of your fingerprint. The more consistently you speak through that lens, the more memorable your ideas become. Avoid information overload. It's easy to believe that saying more equals giving more value. But in truth, too much information clutters the message. People don't need all the facts. They need the essence. What's the key thing you want them to walk away with? What's the central image, phrase, or shift in thinking that matters most. Focus on that. Build everything else around it, not beside it. Above all, never forget that clarity is an act of respect. When you simplify something for someone, you're not treating them as dumb. You're treating their time and attention as precious. You're honoring the fact that life is complex, and understanding should never feel like a burden. Making your message clear isn't easy. It takes effort, refinement, and courage to strip away everything that doesn't serve the point. But the reward is profound. People get it, remember it, and act on it. Creating your own way of communicating complex ideas is not about being clever. It's about being true. It's about finding the most human, vivid, and clear way to translate what you know into something someone else can carry with them forever. When you do that well, your words won't just inform. They'll illuminate. They'll stay with people like a light they can return to again and again. That is the art of being remembered. And it all begins with making the complex simple and the simple powerful.